you all so much for coming. I'm Allison Brower, the Deputy Editorial Director of The Hollywood Reporter, and speaking here with you tonight with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, stars and executive producers of Apple TV's original drama series, The Morning Show. So I have to really start with the question of the moment, which is, what is it like to see this show arrive and land finally when many of the stories that it was inspired by are back in the headlines in an even more dramatic way?
I mean, it's odd.
It's uncanny, isn't it?
It's uncanny how prescient it is, kind of, in a way, because we had some information, but we didn't have a lot of the information that it's going to unfold basically towards the end of the show is...
Yeah, it's almost, it's as if someone had been snuck in there.
But it's an amalgam of lots of different things, and unfortunately, gross negligence happens across many platforms and in many companies. So we had a lot of information,
and the fact that Carrie Erin, I have to say, was able to tap into it and not a part of that world in any way. And she was able to create a world and create characters that were so layered and complicated and honest and messy. We even said to her, like, "Are you psychic?"
I think she's psychic.
Yeah, something.
You two have probably done, between you, dozens, if not hundreds, of morning show appearances in your careers. And what did you take from your experience on those shows? And also, did you research with some of the people who worked in that arena to get these characters going?
Yeah,
well, I did. I went to New York, and GMA was kind enough to allow me in at 5 o'clock in the morning and walk through that world from 5 to 7, which is just an insane engine that revs up and then just explodes, and it's done with such ease and grace. By the end, you actually think there's no way this is going to actually happen. This is not going to end well, and it just does. And it's also the lives of these people. They live these lives of vampires, underground, in the night, and constantly just figuring out what they're going to tell all of us. So hopefully, we don't feel so crappy throughout the day.
They do get to travel in New York when there's less traffic. That's the benefit of getting up at 5 in the morning. But what was the most surprising thing that you learned about their world as you were researching this?
It's never easy. Waking up at 3:30 never gets comfortable. They hate it.
So, Reese, what I was struck by when I saw the first couple of episodes, you've played in the past a lot of real straight arrows who then kind of bust out in Big Little Lies, Election, a lot of characters that are sort of in a box and then they act out a little bit. Here I feel like you're going the opposite direction. You're starting out as a real firebrand, and then maybe they're going to put you in a box. They're going to try.
You wait and see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, was there someone that you drew on for this particular character? I mean, she comes in extremely hot.
I definitely looked at people who have no impulse control, and I think my character also just has this tendency to say things and then think about it later, as you'll see more as the episodes go on. But it was really fun to play. That first scene was really hard with the cold. Oh my gosh!
That was one of your first, and you were sick.
It was my very first scene, I think,
yeah.
And I had to memorize all those words, and I was like, what are these words? And I think I made up like half of them, guys. I'm going to be real.
And they were like triple the amount at the table read. Triple the amount at the table read.
Oh, yeah,
I remember during the table read, I was like, well, this is impossible. You're going to need an earwig. There's no way. You have to actually learn what all those, I didn't know what half of that meant.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I made up half of them, honey. They're not real.
You're going to get busted on that, if that's the case.
I think I said geranium in one moment. And they made me go back in and ADR. They were like, geranium's a flower. Yeah, but it's also coal.
There are a lot of scenes, Jen, where the camera really lingers on your face in the mirror, your face as you're going through a lot of emotions. It's like a very intense close-up for more seconds than I think we're comfortable with, certainly from your old network TV world. How does it feel to be back in that TV lens after a while?
Well, that's not what my TV lens used to look like. I did not have that kind of slow, terrifying, slow pan into my thoughts.
Right.
And it doesn't really feel different. I mean, to be honest, this is a schedule that is like our film schedule, but with more dialogue during the day.
And longer.
And longer,
Yeah. It's like by the time we got to the end of it, it was like we'd made 3 movies.
Yeah.
So there's a key moment where Alex says she's running on instinct and impulse. And yet, she's externally showing a pretty controlled woman to the world. So how did you find that balance for her?
Well, that's sort of one of the wonderful things about Alex's character is the layers that she is, that I was able to access, the human being, and then the woman that has to sort of pull it all together and say good morning to America. And that's and then you have such a deeper appreciation for these anchors in the morning, because life is happening and they're there for us. They're our mom and pa, and waking up, and they're comfort food for us. They're our constant. It's comforting. And then they also have life happening, crumbling down around them, or whatever.
Or in the chair next to them. With
Yes,
with
exactly.
Steve's character.
And have to still sort of show up. I mean, we experience it in a very small way, but there's something similar.
There's something about being on live TV too that is terrifying.
Terrifying.
Because you can make so many mistakes. And I think back to your one of your first questions about what is the thing that's so surprising? I think the way that they synthesize information and then it's something terribly tragic and then transition to something really upbeat is so weird.
The transition.
Yeah, they're like, there's a train crash and also vitamin D. Yeah. And Jen, I remember walking on set, and Jen, she just had her newscaster voice, and I was like, I don't have my newscaster voice yet. I was like, how did you get that newscaster? She was like, well, I watched a lot of newscasters. I was like, shit. But
That's what was so fun. You weren't supposed to really know.
I wasn't really supposed to be very practiced or polished, but it was mesmerizing watching you do it. And then we had a really fun day where Diane Sawyer came to set and watched us do our newscaster voices.
And we were talking about sunglasses and wake. It was really kind of inane stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't something, I don't know.
No, but then we had to talk about Turkmenistan or something like that. And it was really confusing. And Diane was laughing.
Yeah.
Wasn't she?
We were laughing.
We were laughing.
We got the giggles.
We got the giggles.
So these characters are set up by the show, seemingly, and by the circumstances as competitors. But you think Alex and Bradley are not going to play that game, or are they? But how did you, both creatively during the development, but also in building your characters, talk about how you wanted to upend some of those entrenched ideas about women in the workplace, always being in competition, there's only room for one? How did that work into your development of your characters?
Well, I think we felt strongly it wasn't it wasn't supposed to be this acrimonious or adversarial relationship. It was actually just 2 women with different ideology kind of having to exist in the same space. But there aren't a lot of references for 2 women in space, right? 2 strong female leads in a piece of material. I mean, this is just sort of a new thing that's kind of happening now in dramatic premium television. And so it was kind of the Wild Wild West, whatever we wanted to make it. And our relationship goes up and down.
Goes up and down. They're finding their way in this new normal, which everybody is trying to navigate, and also realizing they're at a break. Well, for my character, she's at a breaking point. She's kind of losing it a little bit, which also keeps escalating, and then we're all just trying to figure out this new playbook, which is actually really fun because we were able to take creative license and sort of create a world that, that's what's so fun about art in general.
The scene at the end of the first episode where you 2 kind of throw down, or have the interview about Bradley's experience at the coal mine got a big reaction in here, and seeing you 2 finally kind of get to be head to head. How did that feel for you 2 with that first kind of, it's not a confrontation.
No.
Exactly, but it's
we're
something.
sparring, yeah. It was a really fun day.
It was.
It was a long day. I think as we filmed it, the day we filmed it, I didn't realize it was going to have that much impact, because that's what people walk away with. So a lot of people who have seen it really kind of take that scene and go, that was so intense to watch them finally kind of come together. But I just thought it was fun.
It was. It was really fun.
You are on your phones a lot in this show.
I was like, I am not.
Well, it's very true to life
Are
in
we?
media, and I'm sure it works fine for Apple product placement. But speaking as, the Hollywood Reporter also had its moment in the second episode. So,
It did?
yeah, there's a news clip that comes up from THR. But how do you act opposite a phone?
Wait, are there like big scenes with the phone?
I don't think
You're in the hallway a lot on your phone. holding
Yes.
it
That's
up.
life. Like,
Maybe
isn't
I'm just-
everybody on their phone?
Probably more Alex than Bradley. but-
Oh my Lord. I just draw from experience. Just my
You
own-
have to know these media people are on their phone constantly.
They-
I
we
mean,
const-
Twitter constantly.
It's crazy to watch that.
Because you can't be a beat behind. You can't be a minute behind. And if you're a day late, you've lost the story. So much competitive scoop, like people scooping you is a huge deal. I learned so much about how competitive the, just between networks. Because you're talking about a $500 million enterprise. And if you drop in the ratings to second, you lose about $100 million in advertising. So that's what that whole ratings war was. Was
very
that
big
clear in
game.
the show? Was that clear? Yeah. Good, I'm glad. Because you think it's a high stakes world.